Have you been thinking about moving? Builders are changing the way you move to Myrtle Beach now, and we're going to discuss it today. What's happening, guys? It's Jeremy Blanton with Remax Southern Shores, and today I want to discuss new construction homes and why are builders changing the entire overall landscape of the real estate market here in Myrtle Beach, not just in Myrtle Beach, but across the entire country. Well, before we get into this, I probably need to take a step back and explain what has happened over the last few years and how did we get to the point we're at today. If we go back to during COVID when supply chain issues were in effect and you were having a hard time getting anything you needed, cabinets, we talked about garage doors in previous videos. We talked about flooring issues and granite and all this good stuff. Cabinets were hard to get. During that time, housing market in the process of building a home slowed down because we couldn't get products. And all we could find were limited products, and those are the ones that builders started to use. Well, during that time, we had this severe inventory loss because the demand was really high for a new home, but the supply was extremely low. Well, as we've gone for the last few years, interest rates have gone up, and we talked about this in a previous video. If you haven't watched it, go check it out right here. But we talked about interest rates slowing down and softening the market a little bit. And during that time, builders, though, continued to build. As I mentioned in a previous video as well, the inventory of builders' product right now is up like 15 to 20%. We have the most inventory of new construction homes right now on the market. And with builders having more inventory out there, they need to move homes. So what they're doing right now is they're changing the entire way people are buying and selling homes because they have the deeper pockets and they need to move their inventory. See, for builders, building a home is a very profitable business. They're able to buy the dirt really cheap, put a house on it, build it for a fairly low price, and then sell it for a decent profit. But when the home is completed or close to being completed, and it is sitting in their inventory as a spec home or as just an additional piece of inventory, it becomes extremely expensive to that builder. And so what the builder is going to do is anything and everything they can to move that product and get it out of the way. Why? They don't want to have high carrying costs for that home. Once the home is done, they want it sold and off the books. So with there being right now an increased inventory of homes, this is the market right now that people should be focusing in if they're thinking about making a move to the Myrtle Beach area. Well, why is that? Well, there's so many other reasons why, and we're going to talk about these here over the next few minutes. So hope you enjoy this, and let's dive into it. So let's talk about some of the benefits first of buying that new construction home. The first one that's kind of an obvious no-brainer is the house is going to be brand new. For some people, they don't want to buy a home that's been lived in by other people. If the person had a pet and there were accidents on the floor and you have to change carpet and all, they don't want to have to deal with that. Maybe you're someone like me that has a slight cat allergy, and if I buy a home that had cats in it, I'm going to have to go in and do all kinds of work to remove all of that smell. Or maybe the home had someone that was smoking in it. So some people, they want a new home so they don't have to worry about any of those things. Other people, they don't want to use a toilet that someone else uses. I don't blame them. I want something new if I can as well. So obviously, when you buy a new construction home, it's never been lived in before. It's never really been used. You're the first one and the only one that's going to really be using that moving forward. And so that's obviously benefit number one. The second benefit is that when you buy that new construction home, you're going to receive all types of warranties from the builder. The builder is going to give you all kinds of great things to protect you so that over the next year to 3 to 5 to 10 years, all of your materials inside the house are going to be protected. Now, here in the Myrtle Beach area, this is kind of the typical what I see with builder's warranty. There's usually the walkthrough that you do prior to closing where you get to go through and punch list out any and everything that you find wrong. Then around the 11-month walkthrough, you do another one where any nail pops or cracks in the drywall, they're going to come back and repair. Now, they're not going to paint it, but they're going to repair it and make it smooth and clean so you just can paint the wall then, and they'll take care of it. You're going to find then that your appliances usually have a 2 to 3 year warranty on them. Your HVAC system's going to have probably a 5-year warranty with a ability to, if you register it, get an additional 5 years of warranty on the parts, and then you just pay the labor. You're also going to find that your plumbing and electrical systems usually have like a 2 to 3 year warranty on the home. So everything in this brand new home that you're purchasing right now is going to be protected, and you as a homeowner are not going to have additional expenses show up in the first few years of owning the home. This is a huge advantage to take into consideration when you're purchasing a home. We got to think, we're spending several $1,000s right up front to purchase this home, whether we're doing a loan or paying cash. You could be putting anywhere from $10,000 to $500,000, $700,000 down to purchase this home. The last thing you want to do is 6 months after buying it, having to replace an entire HVAC unit. That could be an additional $10,000 to $15,000. Or heaven forbid, you need to put a new roof on the home. That could be $15,000, $20,000. So all these expenses could pile up on you almost instantly after closing. If you buy that new construction home with warranties in place, you're going to be covered and not have to worry about those things up front. Another thing that you need to take into consideration when you're buying a home, if you're buying one that's brand new construction versus one that's a resale, you could save a large amount of money on your insurance on the home. I've spoken before with Terry Branson. She's the broker in charge at We Insure Advocates here in Myrtle Beach. In fact, I've had her on my show before. Here, I'll link one of her videos. You can go check it out, where we talked about insurance. And one of the things that Terry has shared before is that when you're buying a home, we could have the exact same two homes, same model, same floor plan, same finishes, everything inside, but one is 10 years old with a 10-year roof and one is brand new. The one that is brand new is going to have a significant discount on the insurance versus the one that's 10 years old. So this is another way where you can save money right up front when you're purchasing that brand new home. So insurance is another big thing you should take into consideration when you're purchasing a home here in Myrtle Beach. Another thing that you need to take into consideration is when you're buying that new construction home, there could be major benefits to your utility bills. Well, why is that? Not that the utility is less money to get, but because the home is newer, it's going to be more energy efficient, have newer appliances in it. It's going to have newer lighting fixtures. So for example, you buy a home that's 10, 15 years old, it's using the old incandescent light bulbs in it. That's going to take a lot more electricity to run and operate, versus new homes now are going to have the LED lights that are all throughout it. And those bulbs usually last 8 to 10 years. So you're not having to replace bulbs very often. You're not having to replace lighting fixtures. Your monthly bills are going to be lower because you're using less energy to run the house. So utilities is another place where you could save going with that new construction home. Not to mention things like the air conditioning could have much better results now. I remember one of the houses that my wife and I stayed in back probably about 10 years ago now. And when we were in this house, our bedroom, which was on the back of the home, was always significantly warmer than any other place in the house. Our room was in the back where the sun set in the evening. And so the sun just beat down on the windows in the back of our house and made our bedroom always so warm. No matter what we tried to do, we could not get it to regulate and be temperature-wise close to what the rest of the house is. Versus, our kids, they're up in the front of the house. They're shivering. They're under 10 blankets trying to just stay warm. We're in the back sweating. So when you get a house nowadays, they're going to go through and they're going to pressure test to make sure that each room has the same amount of air pressure and airflow going into it. They're going to add in things called jumper ducts, which are basically going to be a vent that just goes from outside the bedroom door to inside the bedroom door, just to let air to flow between the two rooms and help keep things more regulated throughout the house and more equal. This also helps so that when you're at night going to bed, if your bedroom door is just cracked and the system kicks on, it's not slamming shut and waking you up in the middle of the night. So there's a lot of new things now in technology land that have been put into place to help make these houses run more efficient and be better, just more economical for you to live in day to day. So this is another big reason people are checking out new construction these days. So why is it right now people are buying new construction homes? And guys, when I say that people are buying mainly new construction homes these days, I'm talking from my own personal experience. As of today, when I'm shooting this video, I probably have about 10 to 15 contracts right now on properties with buyers across the Horry County area. And of that list, I think all of them but one has been a new construction home this year. I have helped people buy many homes over this last year and a half, and probably about 85 to 90% of the sales that I've done this last year and a half have been new construction homes. Well, why are people buying that? Well, they're buying because of the reasons that I talked about before, but here are a few more reasons why as well. Number one, the builders, they're able to offer incentives that a regular home seller cannot do right now. So if I were to sell a home right now, and it's one of my buyers that purchased a home, say, in one of the new subdivisions within the last year, and they're still in their building, unfortunately, they're going to have a very tough time selling because the builder is still in there building the same product. So while they bought their house last year for $350,000, they're going to need to sell their house for that same $350,000 plus all of the additional expenses and fees that they have for selling a home. So they're going to probably need to sell that house for $375,000 or more. Meanwhile, the builder is still selling that home for $350,000 or maybe even a little bit less these days. They're offering all types of incentives like closing cost money, screening a porch, putting window blinds in, adding gutters, all that kind of stuff to the deal to sweeten the pot. It's going to make it almost impossible for you, the home seller, to sell yours and compete unless you're willing to take a loss. So we're running into these issues left and right for people that are trying to sell a home at this time. If you're selling in an area where the community is still being built and the builder's still in, it's going to be almost impossible for you to compete because the builder has deeper pockets. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. They can go and they can drop their prices. They can do whatever it is to move their inventory and make things come off of their books and into their pockets. Whereas you need to get all your money back out so that you can make your next purchase. You got to think, to the builder, they're selling 20, 30, 40 houses a month in this subdivision. You've spent the last 20 to 30 years to build up the savings to purchase that house and buy it with cash. You don't want to take that huge loss. To them, they'll make it up, they know, the next month in some other place. So it's not as big a deal. So another thing that builders are doing right now is they're also giving all types of incentives or mortgage buy downs. They're buying down the interest rates from the current rates. Right now, let's say interest rates are 6.7%. What the builder is doing is they're going along and they're buying it down to maybe 4.99%. So check out what this builder is doing here. They're buying down the interest rate to 3.99% on a 7/6 arm for the first 7 years. Starting in year 8, the interest rate and payment adjust every 6 months based on the index changes. So you can get this interest rate down to 3.99% for the next 7 years. Buy the house at the lower rate, save a ton of money, make extra payments over the first 7 years of the mortgage, and then hopefully by that time, interest rates have kind of lowered out. Or if you see a spot where they drop real low, refinance it at that time and go ahead and save a ton of money. Some other builders are doing things where they're just going to a steady interest rate. Last I saw, D.R. Horton was doing like a 4.99% interest rate buy down, where they would be at 4.99% for the life of the loan versus someone who has a regular standard loan at the 6.7, 6.8 range. That could easily be $150 to $200 a month that you could save on your monthly payments by just having a lower interest rate. So when you start to factor these things in, it could be a huge savings over the life of the loan. You could save, $70,000 to $100,000 alone just on your mortgage payments over the life of the loan, just because you bought the home through the builder instead of buying the one that was a resale. While I've shared all of these reasons why people are buying new construction homes, I also need to take a minute though and just say this: not all builders are created equal. And it's super important for anyone who's thinking of buying a home right now to have an agent on your side, even when buying that new construction home. The builders, some of them are not doing things to the greatest ability. Some of them are very slow in their process. And I've had all kinds of just headaches come up over the last 2 years of dealing with new construction homes. And if my clients didn't have me on their side, I don't know what might have happened in the long run. They could have ended up either losing a ton of money, taking a house that wasn't done properly, or who knows what else. Let me share a couple stories with you just to kind of give you an idea. I'm going to keep the builder's identity anonymous in this situation because I don't want to talk bad about anyone, but for people that are looking to buy, like I said, you want an agent who knows the builders, knows what's going on, and can help you through the process with it. So obviously, someone who's helped a ton of people to buy new construction over the last few years, I know kind of who's good and not. But let's share some of these stories. The first one that I want to share, we'll just call them Bob and Karen. And Bob and Karen were buying a house here in a beautiful community in the Carolina Forest area. And they went into a builder where they could go and pick everything out, and they could choose the lot that they wanted, pay the lot premium. They could get the floor plan that they wanted with all of the different upgrades and additions that they wanted. They could pick out the color of their flooring and the cabinets and everything that's wonderful in a home and part of the new home process. But the one thing that didn't happen in this situation is the builder didn't necessarily check to make sure the house would fit on the lot that they were looking at purchasing. So my buyers came, they picked a lot that they wanted to build on, they picked the floor plan that they wanted to build, and had everything put into contract. We went to contract, we had everything there. The builder reached back out and said, "Hey, we want you to come back to Myrtle Beach and do your design appointment." Now, my buyers in this case lived over on the West Coast, and for them, it was a significant expense to come back quickly in less than 30 days and do that design appointment. So they had tons of money tied up in doing a flight, in design picks, and all that stuff. And then the builder also said, "Oh, by the way, because you spent more than the allotted minimum, you have to give us some additional down money in order to secure your home and have us start the process." Well, my buyers had the funds available. They were in the process of selling their home. They got everything going, gave them the additional money, and had everything processing forward to build their home. This started back in June of 2025. Well, fast forward from June of 2025 to almost October, and all of a sudden one day, the builder reaches out, the on-site agent, and says to Bob, "Hey, Bob, I hate to say it, but the house floor plan that you wanted to build, we can't fit that on that lot. Now, you mentioned there was another one that you liked as well. That one we could probably get to fit. Do you want to build that home on it?" Bob said, "No, I want to build the other floor plan, the one that we went to contract with." Now, as the on-site agent in this situation, you think you would know what size homes will fit on which size lots. And obviously, this builder and this on-site agent did not do so. So Bob and Karen wasted 3.5 months going through all of this process, picking out everything, had tons of money, over $35,000 tied up with this builder, to find out they couldn't build the home on it. So we wasted 3.5 months until they could actually get started on the next home. Unfortunately, this one we couldn't really do anything with. This was a builder issue, but luckily for Bob and Karen, we were able to find them another awesome home now where they were able to go get a custom built home at a tremendous deal. We'll talk about that one probably in a future video for sure. All right, so the second guy that I want to talk about here, this was a client. He was a first-time home buyer moving here from Minnesota, and he had a job already lined up here. He was a diesel mechanic, and he was coming to the area. He had talked to a lender about doing the loan and everything. Everything was great. We found an awesome home for him that he purchased a new construction home. But because the builder was offering such a huge incentive using their lender, we had to go through the process and redo all of the mortgage paperwork. So we went through the process, started everything. Their lender said, "Sure, it shouldn't be a problem at all." Well, we ran into just headache after headache after headache with this mortgage throughout the entire process. I, as a realtor, normally don't get involved a lot in the lending side of things, and I try to stay out of the mortgage process as much as possible unless I have to help someone out. Unfortunately, because this gentleman was a first-time home buyer, he didn't know any better. He was just going based off of what they said to him. And we thought this was a slam dunk, easy to do mortgage that shouldn't take any time at all to do. But the lender made it such an incredibly difficult process. And I had to step in, have several calls, Friday night at 5, 6 o'clock at night. On Saturday, I had to speak to the regional manager for the entire lending department at this builder just to get things to go through. And so there were so many times where we thought, this deal's not going to happen. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And then literally we found out as my client's driving across country with his moving truck, with his dogs, his girlfriend, his baby, everybody coming across country, we then go and find out, hey, we're good to go, literally at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and he had to be at the attorney's office at 4 o'clock that day to sign in order to get the deal to go through and be processed. And so, like I said, sometimes the builders, they're just not the same. Now, the other thing that we have to take into consideration is if there's an issue that comes up, is that builder going to actually adjust it? Are they going to correct things and get things fixed? And I've had some situations where some builders, they just are going to say no. It's not our policy to do it, and we're not going to do it. And no matter how much we fight, no matter how much we try to battle for it, they're not going to do it. Other builders, on the other hand, they're going to take care of things. They're going to get things done right. And that's why, once again, it's so important to have someone on your side when you're purchasing a home, especially even with new construction. Let me tell you another story about a client of mine that was moving here from Missouri. And they had a home picked out here that they wanted. We went, we viewed the home. The home was pretty much done. We went and did our 1 week orientation walkthrough, which when you're buying a new construction home, you're usually going to do an orientation about 7 to 10 days prior to closing, where you're going to walk through it with the builder, find anything that's wrong, put it on a list, and the builder is going to take care of getting those things repaired. Well, during this walkthrough, we found several paint things that need to be touched up, which is normal. It's typical to find it. If you've ever seen a blue tape walkthrough video, you're going to see all kinds of pieces of tape all over the wall. It's going to make the house look almost like a Dalmatian with spots everywhere on it. But we're going to do that. We're going to mark everything up. The builder's going to send back in their painters and drywallers. They're going to go through, fix all the stuff that needs to be fixed, repaint everything, and go on. Well, because this was an inventory home, the home had time to sit. And because it had time to sit, the paint had cured. And as paint cures, it's going to change its tone just slightly, ever so slightly. Well, when we went back through and did all the touch-ups, a builder, when they go through and send their painters back in, they're not going to paint the entire wall. They're going to just fix the spot, maybe this big. They're going to take their little roller and paint that little spot. Well, when you looked down the walls of this hallway, and the home had this long hallway as you entered in, it was spots all up and down the walls. So when we got in there, we asked the builder, hey, what are you going to do to get these things fixed? And they said, we had the house painted already. We don't need to do anything else. And I looked at the walls and I went, this isn't the way it should look. It looks horrible. Well, Jeremy, what do you expect? We've had the house painted now. This is the third time we've painted this home. We're not doing any more painting. What? You're not going to paint it? So I had to basically ask the builder what they were going to do. And he said, well, what do you want me to do? I said, well, call a manager, call whoever you need to. We need to get this resolved. So he called his manager, and I heard him as he walked out the door calling the manager and saying, hey, this realtor is giving me a hard time. He's being a pain in the butt. Can you come by the neighborhood and talk to this person and put them in their place? Well, the manager walked in the door. They saw it. They knew this is not the standard that this builder goes with. And so they told him immediately, get the house painted. We went to closing. We signed all the documents. While we were there signing it, they had the painters come back in, paint all of the spots to make the walls look all clean and everything one consistent color through the whole house. And it was done basically by the time we got done with closing later that day. My sellers were able to move into their house with all of the things done properly. Another situation I had in that same development, just across the street actually, was with another couple who was moving here from Minnesota. And in their process of moving, they poured the driveway. And this house had one of the longest and largest driveways in the development that I had ever seen. It was probably at least 150 to 250 feet long, the driveway, and it was a 2-car garage, so it was double wide all the way down. So the contractors came, poured the concrete, and it was during one of those normal, typical summer days where it's beautiful weather 1 minute, the next minute's a downpour, and then 10 minutes later, all the rain's dried up, and we're back to sunny, humid weather. Well, they came, they poured the driveway, and literally as they were finishing up, a thunderstorm came in and dropped a bunch of rain onto this brand new poured concrete. Unfortunately, though, because it was freshly poured, the concrete absorbed in a lot of that moisture and made the concrete too wet. So we ended up having these little divots all the way across the concrete, and it just had like waves in it. And when we looked at it, we said, this isn't right. And the builder said, yeah, you're right. So he ended up calling in the regional director, not just the area manager, but the regional guy, the VP of construction for this builder. And they came in, they looked at it, met there that day with the contractor and said, you need to get this fixed. And this regional VP said to me right there, he said, Jeremy, if your clients are not happy with this 100%, you tell them to get it fixed and tell them if you need to call me. I'll have them rip it all out to the front door and replace it and do it the right way, because that's the way way our building standards are. So it took some time, but had to first give the contractor, this concrete guy, a chance to fix it. So they came in and said, oh, well, we're going to try to do this. We said, no, we don't want to skim coat over the top of it, because over time and driving over it and pressure washing and cleaning, all that kind of stuff, it's going to start to flake off the driveway. So he said, no, we'll do this instead then. They were going to grind the driveway down and pour a custom colored, stamped process design on the driveway for my clients, do all these fancy things. My client said, no, that's not what we want either. So it took probably 6 weeks, but at the end of the day, they ended up getting the entire driveway completely removed and replaced and put brand new one in. Now, if they didn't have me on their side to be there and make those calls, fight for them, they probably would end up taking something as a substandard product. So once again, it's super important to have someone on your side when buying a home. But if you're thinking of buying right now and you're considering Myrtle Beach as a place to move, or just anywhere across the country, I would highly recommend look into the new construction that's out there. Talk to a realtor who can tell you where the good deals are, where the good incentives are. Now, you may not be able to go in and pick the color of your cabinets or your granite, but I can tell you the builders are using current products these days that are all going to be fairly neutral, that you can either go with a brown family of colors through the house or a gray family of colors, and it's going to look perfectly fine throughout the house. They're using neutral patterns, neutral colors, neutral tones, so that everything can kind of just blend nicely in. But reach out to an agent, get them to help you throughout the process, because we're going to be able to know where the deals are. We're going to be able to help you negotiate. You know, one of my other clients, and I'll end with this story, they were looking at new construction homes the other day. They're here from California, and they told me at the end of the process, Jeremy, this was the easiest we've ever had finding a home. They came in, they said, we want to buy a home. We want something that's going to be single family. We don't want to spend more than this number. We want something that's going to be basically turnkey for us to turn into an investment property. And what do you have? What's going to be a good option that's out there? And so we started the process. We met one day, found them a home by the end of the day, and we were able to negotiate a phenomenal deal on this home. Now, what kind of deal did we get? Well, I can't give you all of the specifics of the neighborhood and all that yet, but what I can tell you is this. This home spec'd out at close to $400,000. We were able to get it with a ton of upgrades added into the house for under $360,000. We were able to then also negotiate another $10,000 towards closing costs into the deal. That's a pretty phenomenal deal to save $40,000 to $50,000 off a home under $400,000. This is the type of deals that are out there right now if you have someone who knows the market and can help you with it. If you're thinking about moving to the area, down below you're going to see a link over to jeremyblanton.com. I highly recommend go over there, book a call. We can discuss your move to the area, your needs, your wants, desires, and help you find the greatest home that's going to be out there to fit your wants and desires. As always, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, get the bell on, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.